We're making up some hook rigs here, specifically our 12-0s, which I like to use in all of my larger Wahoo lures. I'm gonna show you guys a little insight on how I make all of my personal and hook rigs that we sell. First up, you're gonna need yourself a hook. We like to use these stainless, these are Seaworks sword hooks, and like I said, this is a 12-0 here. You're gonna get a piece of our 900-pound cable, which is about, I think it's about like a foot long. We have them all pre-cut. We use a little piece of heat shrink tubing on there, 2 crimps, and then a piece of chafe tubing for the top loop. First step, slide your crimp on your line, and then I like to put it through the back side of the eye of the hook there. Flip it over, get a little loop made, and then I like to pull the crimp really tight on the back side of the eye here. Leave a little bit exposed, a little bit of extra tag end because the heat shrink's gonna cover it up, and you have a lot less chance of slipping. So right about here is what you're gonna look like at your hook side. And then next, I'm gonna crimp my top loop. I don't like to put the heat shrink on yet because I like to line up the eye of the top eye here with the eye of the hook, and it's a little bit harder to see if that's covered with heat shrink. You can always slide the heat shrink right on top. So we're gonna repeat the process, crimp on there, and then a piece of your tubing, and then we're gonna spin that around. Like I said, line it up with the eye of the hook. It's a lot easier once it's in the bench crimper itself. Slide it in, and then here you go, have a little bit. As you can see, the eye of the hook is straight up now with the crimper, and that's gonna let your leader come out of there nicely, and the eye of the hook there is perfectly in line with the eye up top. Lastly, slide your heat shrink on over there, over top of that eye. I like to use these stiffer rigs, or I call them a stiff rig on there, so that the eye or the hook is not just swinging around back there. It's kind of set in place, and you can set it inside your hook lock there. But I like to keep a little bit above, like I said, above that tag end, so it closes it off. And now we're gonna grab our torch. Use your heat gun, torch, whatever you want, but I like to prefer a torch. Shrink this down. Once you make sure it's all straight and then it cures straight on there, this thing is pretty much done. You're just gonna crimp your leader onto here. Measure, obviously, if you're making a bunch of these for yourself and you have different size lures, I would pre-cut some cables there, but this is what we use on our 15-inch lures and our 17-inch lures.